Gentlemen of the Full Sack Clan, we do not negotiate with terrorists and women. That is priority number one when it comes to living life abundantly with a full sack, where you just become too attractive to too many different types of people that they're going to try to negotiate terms with you, and they're going to try to make it seem like they're doing you a favor when they're lying to your face to put up a fake image. Like, here's the thing that I've noticed with people, right? If people aren't being loud and crazy and noisy and obnoxious, then what they're doing is they're trying to morally scrupulate your actions to the degree in which no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, you're going to be perceived as the bad person. Even when you just want to be left alone. You just want to be left alone to do your thing. Be polite, be cordial. I don't need anything from anybody. I don't want anything from anybody. Like, I've got my business, sure, just like anybody else. But I don't want anything from it. I don't need anything from anybody. I am perfectly content on my own. And I prefer that for the most part. But it's like sometimes the weirdness that occurs when you have a full sack is just, it blows your own mind. Because, like right now, okay, I am 29 years old. I'll be 30 next week or so. I don't really keep track of birthdays anymore, but I'll be 30 next week. And what's so strange is the women that are about my age, for example, I don't really want anything to do with them. They're to the point in which they've made so many mistakes and done so many different things that it's just, it would be such a pain in the a-hole to try to deal with these types of women. And I'm a patient guy, but I'm not willing, and it's not my responsibility to clean up after the other messes. Like, that's one of the reasons why at the Full Sack Clan, right? So the Full Sack Clan, somebody in the Regal Academy mentioned this yesterday in regard to my video from yesterday, because I mentioned yesterday's video that maybe it's time to start a a full sack mob to clean up after the gooners, because nobody else is going to do it, and we're basically ran by the mob anyway at this point. So I'm not saying we need to go start doing any illegal things. I'm just saying, like, we have to stand together as full sackian men. And even if you're not, like, if you're in a relationship but you still support the full sack philosophy of no philosophy, then that's fine. You're that absolutely welcome. You don't have to not be in a relationship to be a part of the full sackian men. You don't have to be single in order for you to be a regal alchemist with a full sack. Like, that's not what this is about. But it's like the women who are younger, they don't know how to communicate. They've got TikTok brain and brain rot. And then the women that are older, it's like, I don't want to, there would be nothing for me to learn from you. There'd be nothing for me to value anymore. Like, yeah, some of them are attractive, these cougars, but what would it really do? What would it really accomplish? Not too much, not too much. And so, I don't know, maybe I just waited too long, but here's the thing, I've been ready. I've been ready for years. But the people around us just aren't ready. Society has gotten to a point, and I don't like to use that word really, but society has gotten to the point where all you can do is just take a deep breath, look at the craziest, be like, okay. So how do we work with this? How do we work with this? Because there's a part of me, like, here's the thing that I've learned about the ego recently. Your ego serves you to get out of terrible situations. And so many people, like these energy harvesters, these women that just want to extract value from you, especially when you're an attractive man with a full sack, it's like everybody wants to be with you and everybody wants to be in doing business with you, except they don't want to be doing business with you, except they don't want to be doing like or being in a relationship. They just want the benefits because they're like, oh, well, this guy's got plenty of energy. He has plenty to spare. And it's like, that doesn't mean that, you know, I don't have value to exchange. Like, it's like the whole, you know, when people get upset at rich people, like people are saying that Elon Musk should be giving out, you know, his billions to everybody else. And look, I'm not necessarily a fan of Elon Musk, but why should he? Why should he do that? When you're envious of rich people, what that tells me is that you have a terrible relationship with money. I love money. I love money, but I don't need it to feel like I'm grounded, like necessarily, in the sense that I have my peace. What I care about more is my environment. Definitely. I care about my environment and just the peace that I can have and cultivate in my environment than I do money, because it's definitely not that I don't respect money. I love money and I respect money, but because it can do a lot of things. Because it's not the money that I respect necessarily. It's the freedom that comes with the money that I respect, and money is the tool for that. It's just like, let's see. It's just kind of like you need when you're trying to fix something like you know, you need a wrench, right? If you need a wrench, like money's the wrench for the physical world. If you need to tighten things up or loosen things a little bit, money's the wrench for that. But, you know, that's not really something that I think so much about necessarily. Like, I do trust it, and I do just I do think about money, but I don't think about it in the sense that many people do, I don't think. Because I see it as a form of value. Like Maharaji, Ram Dass's guru, says, money and truth have nothing to do with one another. And there's plenty of beautiful stories to demonstrate that. From Maharaji, and as well as, you know, other parables or songs or whatever the case is, right? Pink Floyd's song Money is another great example of that. I remember when I was on a psychedelic trip one time, I was on LSD specifically, and I was listening to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album, and when Money came on, oh my gosh, I was just, it showed me, because I was in silent, well, not in silent darkness, because I was listening to the music, but I was in darkness, and I was just, you know, covering my eyes, and I could see so clearly, like, what society, again, I don't like using that word, but what society wanted me to perceive when it came to the world. They wanted me to see the, you know, sex, money, and drugs. That's all that they wanted. And I still don't consider psychedelics to be like a drug. I technically do not advocate for the use of these, of course. I have to put that disclaimer in there. But nonetheless, what I will say is that I would not have had certain insights if it weren't for those experiences. And the psychedelic world is very profound. I mean, it's the place in which you can exist soberly if you just let go of who you think you are. Like right now, I'm completely sober apart from the caffeine a little bit of caffeine. Sometimes I feel like caffeine is technically a drug. I would say so, but again, it depends on your semantics and your view of drug. But caffeine, I don't think necessarily is a drug, but it can be considered as one. And apart from the little bit of caffeine that I've had, I'm completely sober. And there have been times, like already today, where I feel like I'm just seeing the beauty and the awe of life in such a way, but also the, you know, the horror, It's the beatific horror of life that I'm seeing. And it's the same type of thing with these energy harvesters, man. Like, you know what it is? I was just thinking about this because these energy harvesters, or the women that you deal with, they'll try to say certain things like, oh, I'm so easy to talk to, I'm so easy to deal with, or I'm this way, or I'm that way, or yeah, I'm going to be your best lover you've ever had, or whatever the case is, right? Whatever. It's like, why don't you just be it? Why don't you just be why do you have to tell me? I feel uneasy. Like, you know that uneasy feeling that you get around covert narcissists, or even just overt narcissists, but covert narcissists specifically, because you always feel like they're trying to get like a gotcha. They're always trying to set you up, you feel like, around these covert narcissists. Even just thinking about it, like, I'm like rubbing my knees a little bit, because I'm just, the self-soothing comes into play, because I'm just reminiscing, not even in a good way. Some of these covert narcissists, ugh, dude. I mean, people can be so disgusting. And the trick is to see their disgustingness and still orient yourself from a place of timelessness. That's the trick. And it's very difficult, because a lot of these people who claim to have morals are the ones that don't even understand morals at all. Because think about this, right? So something that Nietzsche talks about in Beyond Good and Evil, he talks about how people often think morals are like a straight line to go from here to there. And it's a logical thing. And he's like, nothing about morals are logical. Nothing about morals are logical. This is why Nietzsche thought that we could create our own values, which I think he's technically true. What he's saying is technically true. I don't think that means that we should necessarily, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't either. It just means that it's possible. Because I'm genuinely to the point where it's possible that anything is possible. Another good cup of joe. That's my that's my like happy Asian face. Look, no hate. I love everyone. I love Asians. The thing about, somebody asked me to touch on race. And this is an interesting thing because it relates to the topic of being attractive. Is like, when it comes to race, there are certain karmas, I would say, of why you're in certain races in this incarnation. But I don't think it's necessary to dwell on the differences. But I will say that psychologically, there's literature that suggests that people who marry or are in relationships, specifically marriage, because that was the study, if I remember correctly, the marriage, when it comes to interracial marriages, it seems to be the case that when people marry within their race, there's a more higher possibility and probability of long-term happiness. Now, there's a whole bunch of other factors that go into that, of course, like how many sexual intimate people have you been with? What was your childhood like? How are you raised? Like all these different things, right? There's so many different factors into this. But I would say that the older that I get and the more grounded that I get, I still have the love for the Latina booties. There's still going to be that love always, I think, for me. However, I do find myself more attracted to blonde women, specifically, even though they've never really been like my type. And I'm not really attracted to like a type. People will say like, oh, you've got a, like, oh, I've got a type. I don't really have a type. I guess if I have a type, it would be a woman who is capable of embodying the Divine Mother, the devout lover, the supportive queen to my kingliness, and the artistic, creative, consistently sovereign being, that would be a woman. That would be a woman that I would want. Like, if I had my ideal woman, that would be the type of woman that I want. And that would be the type of woman that the more I just am grounded in myself, if I were to be with a woman, that would be the case. But here's the thing, the more that I have my full sack as well, the more I find myself not really needing relationships. Like, of course, I think women are attractive and I'd love to be with them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be intimate with a woman. Nothing wrong with admiring a beautiful woman. But the edging and the lust, as soon as you get into that territory, you start to separate and you feed the separation illusion. And you start to see them as like an object. And this is the difficulty that I have with energy harvesters right now. Like, I won't talk about the specifics on the YouTube channel, but I have talked a little bit about the specifics in other domains of my life. And the things that are going on right now, in the ways in which I'm dealing with these energy harvesters, is it's really teaching me how to see and appreciate the snakes without getting caught up in their drama. Because that can be a very challenging thing to do, It can be a very challenging thing to do because it's like the way that I thought about it, and I put this in the Regal Academy yesterday on a post, was when you're leaking energy and when you're not leaking energy. Like, somebody in the Godlike Mastery offer that I have actually asked me about this earlier this week, and I kind of subconsciously, I guess, I formulated this image in my mind where I saw bees, making honey and all that, and then they put it into the jars. And there was these two jars. One jar was open, one jar was closed. The open jar had flies all around it. The other jar didn't have any flies. So, because it was closed. So what does that mean? It means that if you're leaking energy, it means that you're inviting the flies, you're inviting the monitoring spirits, you're inviting, all these things. But if you're able to be protective of your energy, because here's the thing about healthy people, all right? And this is something that I talk about in my Godlike Mastery offer to people, as well as the Regal Academy, etc. Is there's a difference between privacy and being too open or not open enough, right? So what does that mean? It means that a healthy person will say, yeah, there's a few things that I'm working on that I know that are something that I'd like to be better at. And I know I'm not perfect, but I know that I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm going to continue to work on myself no matter what. That's a healthy approach. Now, an unhealthy approach is, well, I hate people, and because of my hatred of people, I'm going to close my heart. That is unhealthy. So there's the differentiation between the two. And this is why you're going to be seen as more attractive when you have a full sack, is because you don't have that social anxiety as much. There's been, in the study that we did a couple months ago, in the Regal Retention Study, number 1, we tracked individuals for 30 days and noticed their behavioral patterns and such. People seem to be more relaxed in social situations when they were on longer streaks of retaining. It's not always the case, but that seemed to be the general trend. So there are outliers, there are exceptions, but generalities are generalities for a reason. Now, of course, this is just one study that we did, part of the Regal Academy, as well as just the Regal Change brand in general. But yeah, there's definitely a correlation, and correlation doesn't always equal causation, of course, but there is a correlation. So when you're super attractive, and you don't even have to be physically super attractive, you can just be spiritually attractive, you've got to protect the honey, man. You got to protect the honey. Keep the honey safe and secure. And people are going to try. People are going to try to come in. The energy harvesters are going to try to come in, and it's your job to just tell them no. It's like what Cat Williams said about P. Diddy inviting you to his place. You got to tell P. Diddy no. It's the same thing with these energy harvesters. You got to tell them no. It's the same thing with these Jezebel women that are just wanting your energy from your full sack. You got to tell them no. You got to tell them no. That's all that it is. And I know it sounds way easier. Like, it sounds so simple, right? And I know that it's not always that simple, but it's a practice. This is the godlike mastery practice. So if these are the kinds of topics that are interesting to you and you're wanting a personal one-on-one transformation, it is absolutely vital for you to sign up for the godlike mastery offer that I have and apply there. I do not accept everybody, but I will accept those that demonstrate a willingness and a readiness to fully transform and really commit to their devoted practice to godlike mastery and to the soul of existence. And also, if you're looking for more of a, more on your own time type of a learning process, that's for the Regal Academy, or you can just join it for being a part of the group. And peace be with you all. Be blessed. Full Sack Clan. It's time. It's time we say no to these terrorists. Okay? We say no to them. We say no to the energy harvesters, no to the invaders. You know what I'm talking about. All right. Peace. Be blessed.